are stories that connect us to ourselves and each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid, wild colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. And now, exclusively on KGRA Radio, I give you your host for Soul Wanderings Radio. Here's AJ.
Hello, Wanderers. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for your patience as we had a little delay in the show. I see you all piled in the chat rooms, and I'm so grateful for you to be sticking around to spend the next 2 hours wandering with myself and our new guest tonight. KGRA Soul Wanderings is hosted on KGRA, I should say. And we're excited to be here with all of you tonight. We're going to get started right away because we are a little behind. So I'll save all the other goodies for you for another time. Tonight, our guest is Adam Gell, and he is a former New York City school teacher, presently a Reiki practitioner, shamanic practitioner, Akashic record consultant, documentary filmmaker, professional photographer, and he's the host of Conversations with Adam Gell and Inspiring Minds. The program focuses on conversations with inspiring individuals that make a difference in raising human levels of consciousness and creating a community of wisdom, knowledge, and spirituality. Sounds kind of like what we're doing. So, Adam, you're in good company. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We're so happy everything worked out and you're able to be here with us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, you are this major divine light. I just can't even believe how you're glowing, and I'm just so excited to have you here tonight. I know you're probably going to inspire so many people and will introduce them to the work that you do in the world, which is just beautiful as can be. We gave a whole bio in titles, but there's always so much more to an individual than their bio. So we're going to get to know you tonight.
Yep.
Are you here for it?
I am.
Good. Why don't you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was teaching physical education for the last 30 years in the New York City school system, junior high school, ages 11 to 13, physical education and health. And throughout my career, most of my information was geared towards actually enlightening the students, receiving kind of like downloads, and I would pass on information to enhance their own growth and help them deal with their own, issues that they were dealing with, or at least I would pick up on. And even though I was a phys ed teacher and we did physical education work, most of it was basically trying to help them. I could feel their conflicts. I can see what they were going through. And in some way I would give a lesson on overcoming different issues and problems, within themselves or in society itself. And so it was geared towards, I felt like a download, so to speak. And as I progressed through that work, I had specific incidents that pushed me forward towards the healing field and the healing arts, in terms of specific things that took place at work, or at least what was going on in my own unconscious mind. And those particular incidents have brought me to the place where I am now.
So it's not something that you were really into before necessarily. It's just you have these experiences and it brought you to a different path. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I would say that life puts us on a journey to go through certain traumas and stresses to either awaken us or to victimize us. And I think it's our responsibility to take that manure, so to speak, and try to grow from it and enhance our soul. So, but for me per se, I was, I had different experiences that were, gearing me or pushing me towards understanding my unconscious mind and maybe even past lives and, future possibilities for myself,
Oh,
as it turned out.
I love that. Life has a way of doing that, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
I never saw myself doing a show like this or even having my spiritual center, all the other things I do ever. But life presented opportunities to me through different experiences, and so grateful for them. And I I believe that you are in the same position. You were given opportunities to grow from those experiences and do something good with them.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, in terms of the work that I was doing as a teacher, it gave me the forum to be able to share my wisdom and to actually go through my own personal experiences and then learn from them and then pass the wisdom on in a way that somebody could digest it, specifically children. Interacting, how to overcome problems, or to be compassionate towards one another, and be forgiving of oneself or themselves in terms of interacting. And, we go through so many trials and tribulations in life, and we really sometimes don't really understand. And we have a hard time of understanding ourselves, let alone forgiving ourselves for some of the mistakes that we make. But for me as a teacher, I had specific incidents at my workplace, which we can get into. I'm sure that would actually describe
Yeah.
the path that I was on.
Well, I'm so glad you said that. I was hoping you would. This show is about soul wandering, and I really love to have these organic conversations because I know there's at least one person out there listening who could really benefit from your experience. And by getting to a place where you're comfortable in sharing that, I think it would be beautiful. So,
Yeah. Well, for me, as I was teaching over the years, I was either developing asthma or certain stresses were bringing on my asthma. And as I noticed, each time I was in my gymnasium at school, I noticed that if I looked at the vents in the building in my gym, I would somehow get a panic attack, which led to like asthmatic feeling. I couldn't breathe. Felt like I was choking. And then there was a coworker of mine who had referred me to somebody, a friend of hers, who had done healing work. And at the time, I wasn't too familiar with any like holistic practices other than acupuncture and maybe acupressure myself.
mhm.
But then, as I ventured off, I gave the guy a phone call, and he said to me, "You have asthma." Right on the phone, he did a reading without me telling him anything. And then he hung up the phone. He said, "Come in." And I said, "Okay." So I was frightened. I didn't know what to expect. But as I sat there and I, went for different various sessions, he was able to see my childhood, see the traumas, and even see past experiences from maybe other lives that he was eventually over the years would bring in, which put me on a path to having a greater understanding of intuition, which I was developing, and having a greater understanding of the energy body and the aura and the chakras of the body. So as I kept visiting him over the years, my intuition was opening up, but also my interest in the spiritual world. In terms of the Akashic Records, I had read a book by Gabrielle Orr on the Akashic Records, and then I wound up having a reading from her. And the reading had brought me back to a world prior to this one where, as I described the asthma, she told me that this was from a past life. And I had, in 1987, lived in Germany. I was married to a German woman. I spoke German fluently within 5 months. I have a Jewish background, a Russian background in this life. And as I was having the reading, she was describing to me that many of the things, I didn't tell her any of the German language, the background. And she said to me, you had a past life in Germany and you were a doctor in the concentration camps. And as I heard this, it sounded somewhat eerie to me, but somewhat familiar to me insofar as my deep interest in World War II and the ability for me to be able to speak fluently within 5 months. And incidentally, people would call me Doc at work. And I always had an interest in this type of work. So it was a little traumatizing at first, but it kind of put things together a little bit. And as I progressed from that point, and I learned to, do Akashic Record readings, I did a reading for myself, and I heard that I had a German mother and a Jewish father, and that I was from Berlin. Skip a year later, I'm going to a psychic and mediumship workshop, and they're blowing incense in the place. And I asked the teacher if she could put it out, and she said to me, "Why?" I said, the smoke bothers me for some reason. And the woman next to me, who was sitting next to me, said, "It's not from this life. It's from the past life that the smoke bothers you, if you know what I mean," she said. And I said,
Interesting.
And it settled me down a little bit, because then I was able to differentiate between the past and the present and not have it just, run into one another. So as I was progressing, having a deeper understanding of this past life and how this past life was consciously coming into my present life, and how they were interwoven together, and how the emotions were playing with one another. Eventually, I was doing a reading for a woman. I wasn't doing a reading. I was doing a Reiki, distance Reiki healing via Zoom. And at the end of the meeting, the woman popped up from after the healing, and she said, "Oh my God." I said, "What is it?" She said, "I remember you from the concentration camps." And I said, "Well, explain, please." And I didn't tell her what I had experienced. And she said,
Right.
"Yeah, you're sitting in this room. I see you with suspenders on, and I see you there." And it was, she got freaked out by the whole, that whole incident, or actually speaking that. And I said, "Do me a favor," because she also read the Akashic records. So maybe a week later, I asked her to do a reading, and she said, "You had a German mother and a Jewish father. You were from Berlin, and you were taken to the camps." And it was exactly the reading that I got for myself.
That's unbelievable.
Skip forward to a year later, when I was interviewing a couple on my podcast, and they said at the end of the interview, "Maybe you could just contact my friend. I think she'll want to talk to you." And as I contacted her, I said, "I was referred to you by your friend." And she said, "Yes." She said, "I saw the interview, and you were my doctor in the concentration camps in Auschwitz. You took me off the line, and you assisted me and saved my life so I can work with you in delivering babies."
Wow.
And so I actually did a remote viewing of that particular scene, or that area, and I saw a white building, and I looked on the computer, and there was one specific white building by a fence. And I had done a hypnosis, and the hypnosis showed me the specific scenes, the 3 scenes, like in my arrival, and my working there a bit, and then my death. I was killed, and I saw the 3 different scenes. And actually, since that hypnosis, it's put things a lot more into perspective of what took place and how I was and who I was. Because at first you feel a sense of guilt, but there are little tidbits in between where I would go through, actually in this life, and say, "You know what? I can't wear a striped shirt." Like, I remember as a child, my mother saying, "Oh, this shirt will look good. We're going to this party or something, and why don't you wear this?" I said, I can't wear it." Anything that wore stripes going vertically, to me, looked like, I assumed, from the outfits from the concentration camps, and I couldn't wear it. If it was vertical lines on a shirt, I could wear it.
Very fascinating.
Yeah. So it was like, it was bringing, again, this past life to the present moment, and somehow now it was my chance to digest it and to see what I learned from it, or what I needed to do in this life to either have more compassion for myself and understand myself a little bit better.
Right. Wow. Now, those are some experiences.
Yeah.
I love how people come across our paths exactly when it is meant to happen, right?
Absolutely.
You had these experiences, and then you received the validation from others without them understanding at that time what you had been experiencing as, "Hey, here's your validation, so you know this is real." And being able to connect those dots is just profound to me. I love stories like this. They're so interesting to me. Before all of these experiences happened, were you a believer in God or afterlife or spirituality or anything like that? Is this all very new?
No, I would say that I didn't have, I guess it was more egocentric based. I was
Mhm.
focused in on myself, and how it was more fear-based, a fear-based mindset.
Mhm.
where, people are out to get you. You have to be protective of yourself.
Mhm.
You can't really surrender yourself to anybody or anything. I grew up in a home like that where everything was mistrusting. My father came from after the war, after World War II, from Europe to America. Was survival. My mother came from a fear-based home, so I experienced these types of dynamics. So for me, it was just protection and egocentric, me, and protect me. And everything was just about the inside of the house and the family. But after these experiences, and I actually had Lyme disease, which was one of the components also I found that in my own spiritual growth was the fact of going through certain setbacks and physical setbacks that forced me to almost surrender
Yeah.
surrender myself to the universe and seek help and drop my ego from the dynamics of it. That ego is thinking that you have to rely solely upon yourself for your survival and help without knowing that there is spiritual and divine guidance for us was a component that I essentially took on and digested and assimilated into my life. And it was I guess, one of the most important and the richest experiences for me because it showed me that there's more to me than just me.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that feeling like for you, having known one way and learning a complete opposite way?
Well, I think we are all on that path, and sometimes we choose to cross the bridge knowing it may be difficult and it may be new to us, but there are times where we stay back on the edge of the bridge and say, I'm not ready yet. I think
Mhm.
life pushes us. But for me, I guess it was earth shattering for me in my own world because uh, it makes you become alone at first. Not many people who aren't going, if your person is not going through this, if you're in a relationship, then you're alone. And then you have to cross this bridge and this journey on you by yourself.
Mhm.
And it creates a lot of dissension. It creates abandonment and, feelings of being alone. But I think
Mhm.
that aloneness is the essential part for a person to then realize that they are connected to the divine energies, and then they realize that they're not alone, that they can surrender themselves to the forces that can guide them and energetically support them, like
Yeah.
I felt it did me.
Yeah, I think it's so neat. I love the stories where people don't have any sort of belief system or are very much an ego or very just closed off to any other way than what they know, right? And then they have these experiences like yours or their own, and they are woke to this complete different reality, and their whole life and everything in it shifts. I think those are my favorite stories. I just love
Well, I think we are born obviously to evolve our souls,
them. Yes,
expansion and journey,
absolutely.
and if we take the experiences, although they may be difficult, and use them as an impetus for our personal growth and
Mhm.
soul growth, so to speak, using our body as the mechanism for its growth, then we become, wiser and we become more evolved. I think if we take the lessons and we victimize ourselves by saying, poor me, or why is this happening to me, which initially we'll do, I think
Mhm.
eventually when we surrender to that, I think then we get the divine support. We get the energies, as I said before, which will support us. And so I
Mhm.
think it's a natural process that many people go on, but sometimes choose to abandon because it may be a road less traveled and also a road that's not familiar.
Right, right. It's uncomfortable, right? The unknowing is uncomfortable. And we as human beings don't like that uncomfortable. So it's not something we lean towards naturally.
That's right. I mean, we're holding, many people hold on to a familiar handrail and
Mhm.
create that wave of fear that takes place and continually hold on to it.
Yeah, definitely. When someone is in that state of darkness, say they go through something really big, maybe even traumatic, and uh, the leap from getting to that space to the space of surrendering, what would you say to them in that moment?
In terms of how to surrender.
Well, I mean, even how to surrender or to hold on, because in that darkness, a lot of people it's easy to become that victim that you bring up. It's easy to give up. It's easy to just not believe or see all the signs that have been laid in front of you on that path. Like, how do you take that leap of faith? How would you recommend someone doing that?
Well, I think it's very important to surround ourselves with people who are on the same path and
Mhm.
traveling the same path. Many times people feel alone and abandoned from the general core of people that they're familiar with in their lives. And so
Right.
when they're familiar with those people, they feel different, and then they become depressed because they no longer fit in. I think if we use the opportunity as a growing mechanism and find people who are also in the same position but on the path to growing, because each person who is evolved to the wisest soul has been gone through the darkest nights.
Yeah.
And those people have had it, we all have a dark night of the soul. But if we use it as an impetus, as the fire underneath us to help us, support us, and help us grow, like manure would make plants grow. It doesn't smell good, but it's the material that helps the plants and the fruits and vegetables grow to their potential, their fullest. So I
Right.
think that if we hold on, I think it's like anything. It's like an athlete who performs when they reach a point where then they break through, and then they are able to then do it with ease. And I think we experience ease once we go through the difficult parts. I think sometimes people get hit with a brick, or sometimes people get hit with a feather. So I think
That is
most of the
so
times
true.
wait for the brick, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I've been hit by a brick a few times. Um, I've been very blessed to be hit by a feather in my more recent years. That's so good.
Right,
I like
right.
that analogy. Okay. So, Akashic records, we've talked about Akashic records quite a bit here on the show, but we may have some new listeners. Why don't you explain to us what the Akashic records are and your experience with them?
Well, the Akashic Records, as I said earlier, I wound up learning about the Akashic Records as once I was on that path to expanding my consciousness. I found everything that was interesting to me and beyond this universe to be interesting, such as alien life, extraterrestrials, UFO contacts from different universes, and I explored different areas of interest. And one of the first thing that popped into my path was the Akashic Records, and the Akashic Records is an energy is a record of our past experiences, present moment experiences, and future possibilities based upon the present moment. But the Akashic Records is a recording, a reverberation of what we speak, of how we act, and our interactions with people and our thoughts.
Mhm.
So, for example, like throwing a pebble into a lake, it creates a little ripple effect. And that ripples would continue if there would be no sides to the lake that would stop it. When we think, when we speak, and when we act, the Akashic Records, which is in the fifth dimension, records that reverberation of our thoughts, actions, and speech, and stores it there as an energy form. And what I'm doing as an Akashic Record reader is reading the information that winds up in that astral plane uh, through images, through sounds, and whatever information that I get when I do a reading for a person. And that information itself it's profound because
Mhm.
it's from a place of love, and it's also a place of soul development. It's not ego based. It's having clients ask questions that are, how do I do this? What do I need to do? Rather than, is it yes or a no response? And
Mhm.
that yes or no response comes into play where our ego protects us from the soul's growth or feeling the real stuff
Mhm.
we're supposed to feel.
Right. And the Akashic records are available to everyone, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
it's not something we necessarily need to seek out someone to do. We could actually learn to do them or read them ourselves.
That's correct. In terms of reading the Akashic Records, the clearer the connection of our chakra system, in terms of having a clear eighth chakra, which is about 12 inches above the seventh, the crown chakra, and that information that gets downloaded into the eighth chakra and passed down into the seventh. So, in terms of having the trust, first of all, surrendering to the
Mhm.
energy.
There's that word again.
Yep. Yeah. And so that when that person surrenders to it and doesn't allow the ego to confuse the message or the sounds that are coming through, the information coming through, then I think a person gets a download, whether it be information, but mostly energetically, and feeling, sensations in the third eye area, crown chakra, or different parts of the body.
Would it also be a leap of faith in trusting that what we're receiving when we tap into those records being true for us?
Well, I think when we do readings for ourselves, we become a little partial at times to the information that comes through, or we become fearful sometimes based
Mhm.
upon what we want to hear and what we don't want to hear.
Yeah.
So I think a good way of doing it is, when we're in that energy, is to write a question down, um, open up a tarot card, which is more of a type of external, material that wouldn't be directly a message that's coming through where we have the ability to block it. But if you use a tarot card and you ask a question, the tarot card, you turn it over sometimes, then you could see it'll be more of an energy from
Right.
that from that field. But over time, I think when it's a place of, the energy is a place of love. So any information that's passed down is soft and gentle, and it's in a kind and loving voice. And anything that becomes in a negative way wouldn't be from the Akashic records. It would be more of an ego type of, oh, I'm scared of that, and create a different imagery.
Yeah. Um, I'm trying to remember. I've had so many readings in my life. I want to say I've had an Akashic reading. I've never read the Akashic records myself. I've never really tried because of that right there, because I want to hear from other people what they pick up, so my mind doesn't get in the way of the reading and muddy it up. They're quite interesting. They really are fascinating the way that they work and how we are able to access those records so easily with some practice.
Yeah, absolutely. The energy itself, in terms of, as we were just speaking about doing readings for ourselves, I think we can get information, and then if we want, ask to have somebody else do a reading and to see if it jives together, if the information you're receiving, and usually it does if you're in the right place.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Practice with a friend. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say practicing with a friend, or uh, yeah, practicing with a friend would probably be the best idea. The thing with doing readings for other people is that, it guides a person on such a deep level. Uh, it's information that is profound, because so many of the things that we are experiencing now, like I just spoke about in my personal situation, has remnants from past lives, and seeing that through a reading, whether it be the person doing the reading for themselves or another person doing a reading, bridges the gap between our personal life now and what had taken place in the past, and how so many of the issues just interweave into one another, and sometimes we're not aware of where they came from, the phobias, the fears that we experience, and the interests and obsessions we have with certain items or objects, that we don't know why we have interests in certain things, like a person
Right.
playing a specific instrument. Like for me, for example, I play the accordion, but I don't really play. I played the accordion. I took lessons, and it had something to do with Europe from this past life. I never really went into it specifically, but I have an
Right.
accordion sitting right next to me with European music from like that era. And
Unbelievable.
and when I hear the music, I feel like, okay, this is so familiar to me. I
You're
feel at home.
Yeah, you feel a pull towards it.
Yeah, and this was like, and so many people when I was maybe about 20 years ago would say, what is it? What's so interesting about this stuff? What do you like? Do you like living in the past? And I was living in the past. I was directed, I think, to recognize that life.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but I feel like we're meant to have pieces of past lives with us always, not only to heal some of the old past life trauma experiences, but also our gifts, our own unique gifts and abilities. They go with us from lifetime to lifetime. And so I don't feel like when we we come into a new life that the slate is totally wiped clean. There's still our essence there.
That's true. That's right. I mean, we are bringing our soul with us from one lifetime to the next.
Mm-hmm.
I guess certain remnants of certain traumas that maybe are difficult for a person to have digested in that life,
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of a karmic cycle of trying to then resolve it and try to reach a place of peace on a soul level. And
Right.
each person obviously doesn't experience the same type of past life every lifetime. Some are more difficult than others. There are certain themes that take place and certain things that they get passed from one lifetime to the next. But I do think there comes a point in time that one lifetime will be more profound in resolving that, so you can move forward and not have those remnants that were strong from life to lifetime, so
Mm-hmm.
that your soul can now move on to a different lesson.
Right, right. Let's see, I've been doing the show for 6 years as of last month, so I've interviewed a lot of human beings. And I would have to say a majority of those that I interview when the question is asked have the same response. I'm curious to what yours is. When we plan our life, like we end one life and we're going into a next, do you believe that we have a meeting of sorts with the soul family on how we're going to show up for each other because we want to specifically work on certain lessons and have experiences that support those lessons or those growth experiences?
Yeah, I definitely believe that. I believe obviously we plan the life that we're going to live, the experiences we're going to have, and the virtues that we're going to need to learn, and the
Mhm.
people who will either play somewhat of the same role, but reversals in terms of role playing in the relationships.
Mhm.
Obviously, people who are parents could be sisters, and obviously changed around, and brothers could be fathers, and the child himself could have been the parent in the past life. So I think we choose those particular lives, and we choose the lesson that we want to learn, or at least work on, so that we can evolve.
Mhm.
Um, and so for me, actually, when I was under the hypnosis, I had asked through the death scene, which was the last scene of me in the concentration camps, where I stood up and I said, I won't do this anymore. And then they said, okay. And then I was put like a noose on my head, a collar on my head, and I was shot in either the neck or the chest somewhere. So I saw the scene. And then the next scene was me leaving my body and going to the Council of Elders. And I was to ask the Council of Elders if I had learned what I was supposed to learn. And they said, yes. They said, you spoke your truth. You spoke your truth. And that was a very important thing for you to do, to be able to do that. And while I felt a sense of sadness for having opened my mouth and challenging something, because it ended my life, the other side of it was the feeling of, okay, I accomplished some type of the ability to speak my mind and not go along with things that are dysfunctional or don't, uh, uh, inhumane, so to speak.
Right.
So I think we definitely plan the life we had. I think we plan the lessons we're going to learn. I think we can go through those lessons, or we can avoid those lessons, but I think they become compounded in the next life or the lives thereafter if we don't work on them.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the first portion of my life was that. It was me catching up on some lessons because it was challenging, and it definitely is a lot different now, and I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, and I trust that. I just feel like a lot of those experiences that I went through definitely were from past life energy. It has always resonated with me that way.
Yeah. Yeah. The energies, I mean, we have the tendency many times when we're under stress to either go to the past, live in the past,
Mhm,
because it's so familiar for us, if it's pleasant, or there's some parts that are pleasant.
mhm.
So many people, I think, choose to do that, or they go too far into the future and they don't live in the present moment. And I think obviously our present moment produces our future possibility or future outcome through the manifestation of the present moment. along with the lessons that we learned from the past. I mean, we could take that as the stepping stones that help us climb higher than where we were.
Yeah.
By reaching back and using that, and also having the information from those experiences and using them and not being fearful of them. I think we're supposed to, I guess they say, is some type of amnesia, right, from past lives when we're born. I think Socrates or Plato might have said that. I once interviewed Raymond Moody, who spoke about the amnesia that we have when we return to this new world, when we reincarnate.
Yeah.
But some people have the need, or they're given the opportunity for some reason to work on other lives.
Yeah.
Past lives.
What a great human being, Raymond Moody. I really like his work. I appreciate it very much. What was your experience like with him now that you brought him up? I'm curious.
Well, as I mentioned before, I think that path of surrendering our ego brings you to the road of understanding all the different things that there are that's not shown in the media, that's not spoken about by the general public, but I think is more or less a personal journey of traveling up a road of things that are, in the different planes. So I think when I spoke to him about near-death experiences, it brought me to the feeling of how certain people go through near-death experiences and have life-altering changes.
Mm-hmm.
They hit a wall, physically in some capacity, and then they appreciate life thereafter, having seen their spirit guides and seeing their loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
and then receiving a message from their ancestors in heaven when they cross over. So for me, it's so interesting to speak to him and all the insight and his experience with doctors who had these experiences but were unable to speak about it, being shamed and mocked in their profession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. What an experience for you. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
I just am I'm at a loss for words with you. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I'm pretty stuttery tonight. Your energy is big. Like, I can feel it. I don't know where you live, but I can feel it where I'm at. It's huge. Like, you have big energy, and I'm just gonna soak in it for a minute and appreciate it. It's just really good. Thank you. But it is making me, like, a little dumbfounded, and I guess that's good. You're putting me in my place.
Well, I do energy work. I do distance Reiki healing, and many people feel that, and even not when I'm concentrating doing the energy itself.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, well, you're doing the work, and so it's in you. It's part of your essence. It's part of your being. So it radiates from you. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Absolutely. What made you decide to become a Reiki practitioner?
Well, this was in line with me visiting that person that I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
when I was, having the sessions. And first thing, it's interesting because the first time I walked into his office, he said, you could be doing the work that I'm doing. He said, you will be doing that. He was intuitive, he was sharp. And eventually, actually, what was happening was he'd have pictures of clients in his office that he would do distance Reiki with, that he had on his desk. And I'd look at the picture and I'd tell him what was wrong with the person. And he said, yes, you're right. Or if, like, we were in the street, I was helping him fix something, and the guy walked by and he said, he was in the Guinness World Book Records. And I told him for push-ups, and he says for push-ups. And I said, push-ups? Where did I come up with push-ups?
Right.
Because who gets into the Guinness World Book Record of, for push-ups itself? So in the company of him, my intuition was getting strong, as was my energy. And I was recognizing my potential to, to read auras and to feel the energy that, when he was doing the Reiki with me, it expanded my auric field.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I took such a deep interest in it because actually that energy created a feeling of love and compassion for myself, which I didn't feel at any point like that I was feeling at time in my life. And I wanted to actually share that.
Yeah.
And so I think the healing was an expression of my self-love and compassion that I was forming for myself, and wanting to give it to other people to help them recognize that we are an energetic body and that we have this potential to heal from the inside out. And so I think that's where I had those profound moments. And so from there, I took classes, I took Reiki classes, I did, healing work, and I was making a difference with certain people at the very beginning. People, obviously, you'd have to not explain it. They wouldn't believe it.
Right.
But then,
right. Most people don't, though. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I do crystal Reiki healing, and I have a lot of people when they first come and see me very skeptical. They're like, well, my friend said I should try it, or they're not really there intentionally for a specific reason, if you will. They're more like skeptics. But then they have the experience and they are just blown away. Like, what just happened? What was that? And their experiences you can't deny when you do energy healing. People have big shifts through those experiences.
Well, I think the biggest doubters are become the biggest believers.
Yes, and it's so neat to witness, right? It's so beautiful. I love it so much. It's kind of addictive to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I have clients that are chiropractors, and I have people who have been in the field of doing certain types of, work, and I do shamanic work as well. And I did a shamanic healing for my friend who's a chiropractor. And, he said, what is this? He goes, my leg pain is gone. I could walk now. And my ankle I don't have the plantar fasciitis. And, he's in a profession where many people, choose, to, let's say, get a cortisone shot to reduce inflammation. And so much of the trapped energy that invades different areas of our bodies just becomes chronic. And, when a person like myself was working on him, he couldn't believe it. And I said, maybe, your wife, I did not mention her name, maybe your wife would be interested. He goes, oh, no, she wouldn't understand this at all. There's no way. So I said, okay. So, for me, it's so inspiring to be able to learn something and to focus in on it and know the capacity to which it can help somebody. If they, a person has to have some type of
to be open to it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the healing, I think, takes place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just magical, and I love every minute of it. For those of you who are just joining us, we are hanging out with Adam Gell tonight. We're going to be taking a break, but while we do, I want you to go over and visit Adam's website and see some of the things that he is up to, and then plan to join us for the next hour, commercial free. His website is being shown on KGRA Digital Broadcasting's YouTube and Facebook pages. And if you're listening, visit Adam Gell UniversalHealing.com. Adam, Gell, UniversalHealing.com. And we're going to take this quick break. And when we get back, we'll continue our wandering with our guest, Adam. Stay close, everyone.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Are we alone in the universe? The most important question facing humanity is on the verge of being settled once and for all. The Mutual UFO Network has been at the forefront of this journey for nearly 50 years. Our members worldwide are dedicated to the research, documentation, and awareness that will shape the future of humanity. Won't you join us?
It's not just a donation.
It's a warm blanket.
It's a bottle of clean water.
It's a roof and a bed.
It's knowing someone cares.
It's feeling safe.
It's a today that's better than yesterday.
Every dollar you can spare helps so much more than you can imagine. Please, donate now to help people affected by Hurricane Ian. Your support is urgently needed.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soul Wanderings, heard here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. It is a wonderful place to be. And if you're not listening to us through KGRA, why don't you go over and visit the website, kgradb.com. It's your number one paranormal and alternative talk network. There's a bunch of free access, and there's also behind the scenes access. And if you're interested in checking that out, there's a free trial that you can do that. If you decide to sign up for the members area and become a member of the network, you will want to jot down this promo code SOUL21, SOUL. That allows you to receive 30% off your annual membership so you can save some money. And we all know saving money is a good thing. I like to save money. Tonight we are hanging out with Adam Gell, and he is our guest. He is a Reiki practitioner, a shamanic practitioner. He has also created a documentary, and he's a photographer. He's also the host of Conversations with Adam Gell and Inspiring Minds. And if you guys are listening to us live, you'll see his YouTube channel and website put across the screen. I'll also be sharing those with you in chat. And if you are listening to a replay, then you can get the information on KGRADB or on my website, soulwanderings.com. That way you can connect with Adam yourself. We'll also share the information at the end of the show. Right now, I do want to give Adam an opportunity to share with you. He does have a Patreon. It's a thing these days. This is how we can support one another in the work that we do. Here on the screen, our amazing producer, Chanel, is sharing the Patreon page. But Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, the Patreon page. I just put it together actually after I figured, and I thought that so many people would be interested in doing some of the things that I offer, which is shamanic drumming, like I have a shamanic drumming circle and distance Reiki healing. So I have 3 different sections. My first one is offering the opportunity to donate and support my page, and the opportunity to watch my documentary film. And then I have a second tier, which is for meeting 4 times a month, which is drumming 1 week, and followed by other types of healing, distance Reiki healing, and repetitive, and then just adding different healing videos and information to the mix to help people find their way with different techniques that they can use to assist them.
Fantastic. I'm a big fan. I don't have one myself, but I believe in them, and I think it's great that you have one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. The work that you do is definitely a labor of love. A lot of people do it because it fills their souls and they have a deep desire to assist others in their healing journey. And little things like this give us the opportunity to support our energy in that way. So,
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting because it's be it that you say that, it's just like a wave of learning and then
mhm.
sharing.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's a thing, sharing. So I did mention, and I've mentioned I've done this show for quite some time. I On social media, you don't see me with a lot of numbers. I don't do a lot of social media posts. I'm not on social very often. I know it could benefit me and everyone else that participates in this experience differently. However, I have this thing with putting myself out there and doing social media. I was just like, no, I don't know what it is. And I've checked in with myself. I don't feel like it's fear based. I have this adverse reaction to social media, even though what we're doing right now is very social. And I love this. I feel like this is organic and genuine, and we can hang out and have these conversations together. And I believe that they'll find the people that they're meant to find. I have an amazing group of people in the chat room every week. I just want to shout out to them because they're so supportive. They show up every week and have their conversations about what you're sharing. And I just think it's just great that they do that because they learn something, they take something home with them. And we connect in different ways, and people resonate with different ways of connection. And so,
Yeah. I think when it's authentic, when it's a sense of when it feels authentic and it's
mhm,
not ego and competition and trying to outdo the next person, then I
yeah,
think that's a good spot. I do think that there are times when once we are on this path, um, you start to go through your different waves of, as I said
mhm,
before, you learn, and then when you learn, then you can share that lesson with other people.
I
And
agree.
then I think that's the authenticity of this path. When you try to force it or try to do something out of the box that's not you or authentic, then I think it becomes negative.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up because I feel like if I tried to force it, it wouldn't be authentic and it just wouldn't resonate with me anymore. So, we have a big listenership, so I'm just happy about that. People find
Excellent.
us still the same, and I'm so grateful that they're here with us tonight and they're getting to know you on a deeper level. That's just wonderful. Um, you've gone through so many experiences in your life, and you've shared quite a bit of them with us here in the first hour of the show. But you've also had other experiences that you haven't shared with us. Um, Earlier, you brought up UFOs. Did you personally have a UFO experience?
Well, it's interesting. I would say that, yeah. Well, I've had different experiences. The first experience I had wasn't me personally having an experience itself, but coming into contact with people who I out of nowhere would start telling me their story about having seen something when they were younger. And many of the
Mhm.
people were in their 70s and 80s and said, I never told, after having just a general conversation, they would come up and start telling me, I never told anybody, but when I was younger, I saw this ship that landed when I was up in the country. And then
Mhm.
another friend of mine told me the same thing. And then I was saying to myself, it's interesting that people haven't shared this with anybody. So I started asking questions like to just general people. Have you ever seen anything? And they said, you know what, I did. Did you ever see it? Yeah, yes, I did. And I said, it's interesting. I never saw anything. I wasn't interested in it until a certain point, maybe when I was on this path of wondering what's out there other than
Right.
just me. And, once you go down that rabbit hole of understanding that there's more to it than meets the eye, and obviously, as we live on this earth, whatever we shine a flashlight on is what we see. But there's other things that are out there that exist just because we don't have a flashlight on it.
Right.
And so it was interesting. I was up in New Hampshire, and I was interested in the night sky and thinking well, I'd love to see something to come to me or visit me or whatever it may be. I was in New Hampshire, and I had told my girlfriend, I said, I think in this town that we're in, something took place profound. And I happened to have been in New Hampshire, and up the block from where I was staying was where Betty and Bunny Hill were abducted in 1961. And I didn't know about the story, but I wound up looking it on my phone, and I said, it's right down the block where we were staying from. So I went down there, I took pictures of the sign, and I started feeling like a connection towards what their experience was. And incidentally, I'd say about 15 years ago, I was driving up the road, I think that they were on, and I had told somebody else when I was driving, which I had no idea. I said, if this is like a perfect place for like an alien abduction. I had just had that came to my mind. And then it happened to have been in that area when I just found that out 2 years ago when I was there. But the next summer, I was sitting on the beach, and there was a UFO came, I would say maybe 400 or 500 feet off the ground. Nobody else saw it because nobody else was looking up. And if they never looked up, they'd say, I know what you're talking about. But since I looked up, it looked like a little drone that turned into a flat balloon that just took off into the cloud.
Wow.
And I said, wow, that was interesting. And that winter, I was driving on the New Jersey Turnpike, and above my car was a blue, I would say like a Roman candle in the middle of the winter. It just exploded right over the car like a blue poof. And I said, wow, what was that?
What was that?
So I felt the connection of being either contacted or being acknowledged through the fact that I myself was signaling the information from my consciousness to the universe. And I had always seen alien faces. Then I recalled, I said, for like 3-4 years, I'd see alien-shaped heads when I closed my eyes and I was sleeping. So I almost felt like it was almost like a telepathic download or communication for me, which was interesting because I then met people who were connected with different people who had visited them in the nighttime and told me that at the foot of their bed, they saw this person come. And this person told me a story, but they always would share it with me because of the comfort of not being judged and of knowing my interest in it as well, obviously. Right. So there was a mutual understanding. And and then I, took interest in that and started interviewing people on my YouTube channel who worked for the government, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and were, at a certain age where they could speak about it now and not, lose their job or be placed in or be looked upon differently. Right. But I always felt that I could recognize people that I felt that were not from here, so to speak. In my mind, so I always felt that that connection maybe towards something. And I mean, through my Akashic record readings and other things, people I've met, we shared information with each other and said, where were you from? Or Sirius, and all kinds of other encounters where I saw different things through my records and through my intuition. So I think, so that subject is very intriguing to me. In the night sky the other day, maybe 3 weeks ago, I saw a disc or an orb floating in the air, like in the distance. I mean, nobody saw it. I obviously made a connection with it, or I saw it. And it's so fascinating to me. It's fascinating to know that we're not alone.
Yeah.
And that we are a vast universe, and thinking that we are the dominant culture or race is our downfall, I think.
Absolutely. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I agree. It's like when you're closed off to knowing A, B, or C, in this case, that there are other life forms. It doesn't mean that the activity isn't happening. You're just not, your awareness isn't there. Your focus isn't there. It's just like when you talked about shining the flashlight on something and lighting it up. It sounds like that's what it's been like for you. Not that you weren't, you hadn't considered that there's a possibility, but once you opened your awareness to the possibility that there is something, then you started seeing what was around you.
I think like myself, I think I had to go through the dark night of the soul, as I mentioned before, or difficulties, whether it be through emotional traumas or through physical traumas. I think when the universe wants you to know something and to be awoken to it, I think it'll get its way and it'll happen.
Yeah.
I think it's in the cards, and it's meant to happen so that you evolve to you evolve to the person you're supposed to be, and to then take on the information you're supposed to know, learn, and pass on to others.
Right.
And I think you were supposed to be like antennas or lighthouses of information to cast out to other people. And I think some of us have to go through the difficult times to build that lighthouse for ourselves and endure the ocean waves and storms, and then be strong in ourselves to be
Yeah.
able to then pass
Yeah.
that on.
That makes so much sense. Absolutely. It's just like the saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Absolutely.
It's such a great quote.
And
There's
then the teacher and then the student leaves when the teacher has done his job.
on to the next lesson, on to the next experience. There's just one right after another, one right after another. Life is definitely a journey.
Certainly is.
I love it. It's so neat. So, with your practice with as a Reiki practitioner, you're also a shamanic practitioner. People will say they're a shamanic this, that, or the other. So I understand that there are different types and levels of being a shaman or a shamanic practitioner. Explain to us what your experience is with that.
Well, for me, it's been an interesting road of developing a deeper interest in cultural energy, in terms of keeping a tradition of what I've learned through a person by the name of Itzhak Berry, who is a shaman in New York. He's a New York Times bestseller. I attended many of his workshops and classes and learned the Andes tradition of La Limpia, which is a tradition of healing the body by removing the energies that are surrounding the body, and by journeying and finding the places and traumas that exist in the person's energy field, by journeying to their cut off or fractal parts of their soul, and trying to bring them back with permission from the person, or at least acknowledge the parts that were dissociated from the person's soul, in order to bring a sense of acknowledgement first off, and then healing, so that a person is not fragmented. And we're all fragmented to some extent through our traumas and experiences, and we become numb and dissociate from them, and we cut a portion of us off in order to override and not deal with the parts that are hard. So what I do is I journey, and I try to assist the person to find those parts, and to help them assimilate it energetically into the body. So they become.
Interesting. I haven't heard of it in that way, but I would imagine it would be a fantastic session with you if someone was working on healing through some trauma.
Well, it's very comforting. It's a comforting experience. It's a clearing, a cleansing, and it's using rum. It's using different tools and Palo Santo and different types of techniques of clearing out the chakras, clearing out the system, using an egg to rub over the body to remove the energies. The egg has pores, and it's porous, so it removes the energy, and the feeling for the person at the end is feeling like is completely. They feel new.
Yeah. Is that something that you could also do long distance?
Well, I've done it long distance. Obviously, that's something that's done better in person.
Yeah.
But it's the
It's
intent
not like Reiki.
the intent of doing the same ritual is the same, just like distance Reiki and Reiki in person would be. I think a person probably would feel it more in person than they would, obviously, from a distance.
Yeah, definitely. I just find energy work of all kinds so fascinating, and I do my own type of energy work, but I also go and have sessions myself, of course. And everyone is so unique in the way that they use their energy and their abilities to work on this body, or all their clients' bodies, I should say. But I have a different experience with each and every one. And I am so grateful to be close to so many different energy healers where I can have those experiences. But if someone out there has not had energy work done, pick someone, do your homework and pick someone that you resonate with and go and get it done. Go and get it done. It's so important to do.
Well, I think the feeling of trust,
Mm-hmm.
the feeling of being able to surrender with trust, puts a person in a place of vulnerability, but in a position of strength by being able to receive and to allow, to expose yourself of the negative energies that we all have, and all of the things that need to be shed. Just like the snake skin, right? It needs to shed its skin. We need to shed our skin.
Right. Right. Yes, exactly. I feel like I read somewhere about you, or maybe I was listening to one of your shows about childhood trauma or wounded child healing or something of that
Yeah.
sort.
Well, for me, I'm organizing for in terms of. I have a portion on my website called the Balanced Masculine. In terms of most men, from my experience, go through experiences of having to try to be more masculine than they need to be, or are confused with the role that a man plays in society.
Let's talk about this. This is good because we have a lot of women come on and they're always talking about the divine feminine, but I don't have very many men that are doing the work or talking about helping other men do this type of work. And it's so needed and so important.
Well, it plays into directly that, because it's such an important subject, and most men are scared.
They're closed off to it.
Afraid. I mean, as a man, the emotions run very strong and very deep. But if you communicate with most men, if I communicate with most of my friends, most of them don't trust opening up because they feel they lose their masculinity in doing so. So that full sense of masculinity is what needs to be validated. In shamanism, you have the earth energy, which is feminine, and you have the sun, which is masculine. And in shamanism, the combination of two is essential in order for a person to be balanced in the heart. And sometimes as men, we stay just solely in the head, and we don't go down to the ground and ground ourselves into the feminine, which is the nurturing aspect of the earth, and to feel like we could use that. So staying up in the head and not dealing with any of the issues that have to do with any of the feminine qualities, you become imbalanced. Just as a woman who would not also have the masculine qualities of the sun and assimilate those energies into the heart center. So I think just like in shamanism or in the Andes tradition, it's called the Pachacudi, which is the new earth, where the north, which is the eagle, meets the south, the condor, the feminine. North eagle bird, which is masculine, and the feminine condor bird, and it's meeting now for the next 500 years, and there's a transition of these energies. And so I think as men, it's so important for us to balance ourselves and feel like a true individual by having both energies, both masculine and feminine. To what extent the person has is up to the person, but having a balance or an aspect of it is important, because the feminine energies are also your intuition and your inner guidance system. And as men, we sometimes tune that out and go and become rooted only in materialism and in brawn, and we miss out on the information that has the potential to give us the insight to actually make us a true masculine person, not one that's aggressive completely. I mean, there's components of different aspects of a person, but to seek the role models that we had as children and redefine ourselves, and sometimes say, was this the perfect person that taught me what I needed to do, or did I just follow a tradition to fit the role that my father played or his father played? And so I think it's important for us to go back to the traumas that we experienced, as I said, in shamanism before, and not cut off the parts of ourselves that we don't like, because that childhood trauma is the places that we try to escape and say, all right, I'm past that now. I don't want that in my life anymore. It doesn't mean the experiences we don't want anymore, but we can't shut ourselves out, the parts we left out of who we were. So So I think it's important for us to validate the child within us and to comfort that child and bring it back, because I think that's the place where we find our true happiness again. When we go back to the child and the experiences that may have been fun, or we may not have, if we had trauma, we block it out. But at least revisiting it and showing the child that you're there for it now, as the adult, trying to comfort it and bring it back and say, or even getting information from the child, because the child has a lot of wisdom and intuition itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was your experience personally like when you were working through your childhood trauma, or stepping into your divine masculine?
Well, I would say it's first of all feeling my emotions. I think, as I said, many people, and men specifically, have strong emotions, and feeling is not one of the attributes that I had. I could rationalize it, I could think it in my mind, but I could not digest it or assimilate it into my heart and have compassion for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I beat myself up as the way I saw my parents verbally in different incidents treat me. They treated me with love, but they also didn't treat me with that feeling of safety for myself. And so growing up, I felt I had to analyze the situation rather than feel the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I felt it, it would have destroyed me. I feel. So I had to analyze it, and I gained, I think, my intuition. I think it cracked the nut open, where I said, okay, I have a deeper understanding now of what's happening, rather than staying on this plane. So it's almost as if my soul somewhat didn't leave fully, but there was a fracture in certain parts of my childhood that made it pop out a bit to make me escape it. So I said, how do I now bring myself back to whole? And so through the journey of physical ailments, which I think are some of the physical ailments are a byproduct of our emotional traumas.
Oh,
Our
absolutely.
inability to deal with the emotional becomes physical. And so my body was crying out, and I didn't know how to pay attention to that as a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. I just went along with it. And you say, oh, I have a stomach ache. I feel panic attack. I feel nervous. I feel this. Who can associate the feeling with the emotion? As an adolescent, the last thing you want to do is admit you're weak. Especially as a man, you want to say, oh, I don't deal with that. I don't have to feel that. So I just analyzed everything, and I just dissociated my feelings from my emotions, and it was like split. So through the years, as I suffered physically with different things, I said, oh, wait a minute, I have to stop. I can't run away from myself. I have to learn to sit with me. And those incidents where I mentioned earlier with the asthma and all these other things with Lyme disease, were all ways of me to stop and to feel and to sit with myself.
Right.
And so I think that was the beginning of that. And it's brought me to the places of Reiki healing as we're speaking now, and to Akashic record reading and shamanic work and all of these other attributes that deal with helping and assisting myself, and then learning from it, and then helping others as a byproduct.
Yeah. Oh, it's so wonderful. Were you able to heal? Were you able to heal the Lyme disease? Are you in remission?
I feel actually, I would say so.
Yeah, you're just from healing the emotional wounds.
Well, I would say that I had energy work done, and it brought me to a higher level of energetic. I felt, I didn't feel the symptoms of it no more. I have to say no.
Yeah, that's so fascinating to me. I am constantly deep diving into healing trauma for the physical healing that I experience. I've had several diagnoses, but I really feel like they are linked to trauma. And the more that I get clarity and work through those experiences energetically, the better physically I have felt.
Well, I
It is
think,
really fascinating.
yeah, I mean, in chakra, the chakra is a rotation of the connection from the outside world to the major organs and energetic body inside of us.
Hmm.
And so disease starts with outside of ourselves before it gets internalized. And so does the emotions. So the emotions spinning the chakras. And so when they're not spinning correctly, there's no flow to that particular energetic field. And then the disease takes place. So
Right.
I think if we are able to recognize the emotion and allow ourselves to digest it, and that means sitting with it, feeling it, and not distracting ourselves with other things, which is so easy to do.
Yes.
And that's one of my journeys right now is feeling at times, let's say certain times you can feel like, specifically what's happening over the last couple of years and people shifting in their minds and their opinions on specific things, we become more lonely because we have to sit with ourselves
Hmm.
where we no longer, we can distract ourselves, but the distraction becomes boring after a while.
Right.
And therefore that loneliness is actually learning to love ourselves, forcing us to love ourselves.
Right. And that's a journey in and of itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I feel like I can speak because I am a woman. It is particularly challenging for women. And we can go on about all of the ways why that is so. But working with most of my clients are male, but I do have quite a few clients who have been women, and there's a common theme with them when I am working on their chakras that their lower three are unbalanced. And it makes sense. It really does make sense as a woman why that would be so, just not just because of the society pressures, but until recently, I've seen a different thing. But like my era and around that time, I feel like we just weren't taught to love ourselves. It wasn't a thing that you did. And just to judge and criticize and even dislike yourself so harshly. And there's so much damage that is done because of that. And there's so much healing that is occurring because of that now. Women in general are starting to step into their feminine energy and realizing what gifts they really are. And I think it's important for both male and female, definitely, no doubt about it. And this awareness, how you're sharing your experiences and what it is that you do, is so important that it keeps being shared and that the message is always brought across for someone to hear because it needs to be done. Like that is our purpose, is stepping into our true selves, right? And to
Uh,
heal those traumas and those generational um, experiences that just get carried on over and over again. And
yeah.
it's important, like what you're doing with your show, what you're doing here on this show, and in the work that you do. It's just so needed, especially now more than ever, where people are so lost and confused, but they're also having this deep desire at the same time to like really truly know themselves and find themselves and learn to love themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's
The self-love component is as they say, the journey from the brain to the heart is the longest journey in
Oh,
terms of
absolutely.
trying to, bring those feelings into your heart to actually love yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
how do we love ourselves if we were not taught love or we were not given love that was unconditional? How do we, not manipulate our own mechanism of how we receive or give love based upon what we received? It's
Exactly.
such a imprint and such a, as I just said before, that journey from the heart to the head is so short but so difficult. From
Mhm.
bringing them the thoughts to the emotions to feeling it and digesting it is a different story. And I share stories with my friends. I'll get a cup of coffee with them, and we'll talk, and they'll say, "How do I do that? How do I do that?"
Mhm.
Um,
It's a good
and
question, but it's such a personal one.
it's a personal one, and I think it really, from my experience, I think, as I mentioned before, I think it's inviting the child back into our lives. It's bringing that fun back in and not judging ourselves and not thinking that we're better than the child in us just because we were embarrassed or shamed by it from other people.
Right.
And that embarrassment and that shame that we feel about that peculiarity about ourselves that we didn't know how to handle or digest, we have to digest it at some point. We have to bring it up, chew it, comfort it, and say, I'll put you back into the place where you now have comfort, and I'm no longer ashamed of you. And I think for men, not specifically for everyone, but I can speak for men. I can speak for the men that I know, that they have a deep sense of shame of an experience, like we all have, if we're honest with ourselves. Whether it's with interacting with somebody or having an incident or a trauma or our own judgment of ourselves from the lack of love we received and didn't know how to love ourselves. I think that people are afraid to reveal their wounds and their childness in them, the playfulness in them. And people shame and mock them if they're uncomfortable in doing it. And I think even what we're learning here is a form of learning to return back to the sense of innocence and nature and the wonder of life, whether it be in the universe or on this earth, and be able to feel comfortable in doing it and not feel alone. And I think we will feel alone because certain people are not on that path. Right. But then again, we can't use them as a basis for our own growth.
We just need to find our people.
We need to find our people.
Yeah. And that's scary too. I think through my experience, I can speak for myself. That was the scariest thing when I went through my dark night of the soul. It was very, very lonely. I didn't even understand what was happening, let alone reaching out to someone to explain or try to have them understand me in any way. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to you finish.
I've lost it, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I was just going to say that I know that for myself, it started in my family first, where if you're not too worried about being the black sheep of the family, if you're able to deal with that abandonment and that energy that can be profound when you have siblings and mother and father looking to pressure you conform you to what they feel is their way of doing things and creating fear or shame if you break from the boundaries of it. Right. And for me, that was probably the first place that I recognized that I had to do that. So after that, everything else was difficult, but easier than having to start from the groundwork up. So at work, I had that issue, but then again, it was my energy of me bringing that to the workplace as well in different times of, challenging systems that I feel didn't work or weren't working. And I didn't want to be a sheep along with the mindset of what was going on. And so it plays out into now becoming, what I want to do and what I feel is right to do and not worrying. I think the people who will be our people will join us along the path once they see that we're confident in what we do, to be an example, to lay the groundwork for something that maybe they'd be interested in, but wouldn't have the wherewithal or the will to begin it or to do
even
it.
The courage. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. And I feel like attracts like, and when you start shining your light, it's attractive to others. They want to know what you're doing to feel and look the way that you are feeling and looking. And you may lose a lot of friends and family, but you also gain them back in a different way and then some.
Well, I think life's a spiral. And we're spiraling. We're not linear. We're going around in circles, repeating the same things. I mean, the years go around in circles. It's a new number added to it, but we retrace the same places we were maybe years ago, and we're faced with the same conflicts, but we have a different, maybe hopefully a different way of handling it, a greater toolbox to be able to, handle the leak that takes place, or the crack in the wall that we didn't have the tools initially, and we went crazy and said, what do I do now? And now you said, well, all right, now I know how to get a tool, and now I know how to fix this. I know how to use a screwdriver. I can fix that, and I can fix that problem because I have the skills now that I've kind of learned what to do, or be aware of what the steps are, what's going to take place. I think we're cycling around in circles, and life is presenting itself to us with the same thing, is to see if we've learned to handle it so we can move on to a greater spiral, a greater lesson in the spiral of life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of that. I think it's renewed inspiration for me. Even though I'm constantly every day aware of what I'm working on, it's good to hear other people's perspectives and their viewpoints on what they're working on, because it helps me, and it helps me as well. You've also created a documentary. I'm going to shift gears a little bit because I want to make sure everyone knows about it. And that's something you can find on your Patreon as well, like you
Yes.
mentioned earlier. But let's talk about your documentary first. What called you to create a documentary, and what is it about?
Okay. So as we spoke about trauma in childhood and the beginnings or the openings of intuition and to understanding or trying to understand why people acted the way they did, or me as a child looking to escape the traumas and the emotional issues that I felt were being absorbed by me as a child. My grandmother lived about a block and a half away from where I lived, and she was from Europe. She was from Russia. I didn't know where she was from as a child. All I know, she had an accent, and this was in the 70s growing up in Brooklyn. And as a child, I would play baseball in the street. I'd play hockey. I'd play baseball, football with all my friends. It was a melting pot of every ethnicity and every race together. We all played. And after a while, my mother would tell me, I'd come in the house and my mother would listen to the radio, and I knew if she'd be in a good mood based upon if my father was coming home on time or if the train was running late. And so I said, I would like take notice of the mood.
Felt the energy in the room.
Yeah, I felt the energy in the room. I said, wait a minute. Okay, he'll be on time. It's okay. Or if he was late, then I knew like there was going to be stress. So I said, what do I do? So I'd wait for my father at the corner. And if I had an incident with my mother would wait till my father got home and tell him, wait till your father gets home. And this was like a big stress for me. So eventually it turned into drama, and it got a little out of control. So the place for me to go was to my grandmother's house, who lived a block and a half away. When I go to my grandmother's house, she would take out the food and she'd feed me. And she would then take out these photo albums of her family members from Europe. From, I was the 70s, so they was from the 30s and the 40s. And she was showing me pictures of all these people with fur hats and snowy scenes and no smiles on their faces. And I'd sit there and look at this. And at first I wasn't really interested. I was just appeasing her by sitting there. She was feeding me and nurturing me and helping me from what I was going on at home.
Grandma.
So I'd sit there and look at the photo albums. And then eventually I turned the photo album and I saw a picture of a man in a military uniform. And I said, who is this? I was interested as a kid in military and war as a kid, soldiers. So I saw the soldier and I said, Grandma, who's that? And she said, that's your grandfather. And I said to myself, that doesn't look like my grandfather that I know. And then I said, that's Grandpa? And she said, yeah. And then she went to the kitchen sink and just walked away. Make a long story short, I went to my home and I said, Dad, did you know your father was a soldier? And he said, leave me alone. I don't want to talk about that. I was like 7 or 8 years old, I remember. So each time I visited my grandma, I'd go into her cupboard, her drawer in her bedroom where she had these photo albums, and I'd open them up and go to this specific photo. Skip years later, eventually I found out that was my biological grandfather who was killed in the war. And my grandma, that was my grandmother's love of her life. And she told me a little bit about him, that he was a school teacher and that he left for war, and she saw him last in this village where she went to visit him. And that was the last she saw of him. And then she cried, and then I comforted her, and this was stored in the back of my mind. I was like 9 or 10 years old. Well, skip 40 years later, I am going through a divorce, and I'm don't see my children. They're kind of like shut out of my life in some capacity. And so this feeling of my grandfather came back into my memory. I said, the feeling of what happened to him. He had a son, which was my father, who my father forgot about, didn't want to know from him. And I said, how is it possible that we can go through life, have children, have experiences, live a life, and then be forgotten? How could we suffer through these things we're discussing now, or go through these paths, these journeys of life? Do we have to be famous, have a statue, be well known to be remembered? And I said, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. It seems like everybody has a path, whether they're famous or not, and everybody has the right to be remembered, and certainly not forgotten. So through this 10-year journey of the disconnection between family, I said, I have to find my grandfather. And he died in the war in 1942 in Europe, in Russia. And I went back into my grandmother's photo albums that I had saved after she passed away. And they were in my mother's basement. And I opened them up. And in the bottom of all the stuff I took from her were diaries that I never knew she had.
Oh, wow.
So these diaries are written in an indigenous language called the Komi language, which was not Russian, but it was in Russia. And they spoke the Komi language using the Cyrillic Russian letters that eventually became the Cyrillic letters. So I had these diaries from 1938. They were before the war years, throughout the whole gamut of the end of the war coming to America.
Wow.
So they were written in Russian, in Komi, and I said, how am I going to get these translated to know what's inside this information? So I just wrote a random letter to one of the envelopes that I saw in the box, and it was a family member who was then said, I am the niece of your grandmother. I'll translate all these diaries. Make a long story short, the diaries were translated, and I had a whole life from the beginning of meeting my grandfather as a teacher, she as a midwife, to the whole story. I wound up turning this into a documentary film, using the diaries as a platform for the romance and the heartache and the journey through Europe and their eventual arrival into the New World here in America. And it speaks through the whole journey of how she left, and when Hitler attacked, and when they left their mother, when she left her mother and father, and coming to the New World and leaving Europe for good and never seeing her family again. And then eventually going over in the 70s during the Iron Curtain and seeing her family. And she filmed it, actually. And I have all the footage. And, I turned it into a love story, but also my father's awakening to understanding who his father was. He didn't even know what his father's name was.
Really?
And my father was in his mid-70s. And I said,
wow.
So it's an emotional, revelation for my father in the film, to see what took place and what he experienced, and to see the final, summary of what we learned from this.
Oh my gosh, it sounds amazing. I actually went to watch it and it wasn't on YouTube anymore. But now that I see it's on your Patreon, I know where to go
Patreon
see
page.
it.
Yes, it's on Patreon.
And I just did share that link in on both YouTube and Facebook pages on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. I really cannot wait to watch that. It sounds incredible. I love history, but that experience right there just sounds so profound. What did you gain from actually creating that story into a film? What did it do for you? What experiences did you have from putting that all together?
It's interesting. Number one, if a person is forgotten, it's never too late to bring them back into the family. We're all a connection of our ancestors. And it takes someone in a family to recognize this journey that each one of us in our ancestry went through in order to bring us to the place we're at. It also taught me to have empathy for my father's journey. As a child, we fought it out. I didn't get along. As I said, I went to my grandmother's house. We had a very big distaste for one another in terms of me for him. He didn't show any compassion. He was an empathetic person with a warm heart, but it was closed, and he so acted. So with me, he tried to live through me, and this whole journey of me discovering who his father was and seeing the path and understanding the remnants of suffering and war and what it did and how it impacted him traveling from country to country during the war years and never having a home. I grew a deeper compassion for his suffering and an understanding for his journey. So I found a deeper sense of love for him, which dropped a lot of the pain and hurt I felt from our relationship. And I mean, they say time heals all wounds, but sometimes we have to go deeper and investigate and digest what took place. And so by doing that, I helped him also get into contact to connect the ancestry from all of us. And I think I healed the generations by paying homage to what took place and pay homage to my grandfather. It's interesting. On his death, the day he died, which was February 8th, 1942, he was a ski soldier in the ski battalion, 8 days into war. And the day he died was February 8th. On February 8th of maybe 4 years ago, I had a knock on my door in the middle of the night, and there was nobody there.
No.
And it was a profound, and I had I memorialized him with a candle and a picture in the kitchen. And that night, I remember, because I lived in a private house and there was nobody around. And all of a sudden I hear boom, boom, boom on the door. And I go to the door and there's nobody there. And I said, that was my grandfather. And I had other incidents like that as well in the house, which were his spirit, I think, visiting me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just saying, hey, Adam, I see you. I see the amazing work you've done, the healing you've done for our family, and showing up for you in that way. That just feels really, really good. Yeah, I bet that just like putting that out into the world, not just for your family, but for other people to have that experience through you, that had to feel amazing.
What made it feel amazing was the fact that, as I said, we don't have to be the most famous person to be validated or remembered.
Yeah.
Each one of us, again, is on its own journey, having trials and tribulations as we speak now. And the greatest defeat would be to not be remembered. It's so important for us to be honored and remembered by our relatives or our children or whatever legacy we leave behind. And I think that my grandfather, who lost his name, lost my son, lost his profession as a teacher, going to war at the age of 25, I felt it was my duty and responsibility to bring him back into the family.
Yeah.
And I felt I did.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to have that experience and watching that journey that you put out into the world energetically and so full of love and purpose.
Thank you.
How beautiful. Again, for those of you who are joining us, the link to the Patreon to watch this documentary, Forgotten, is available to you. So good. And then we only have about 5 minutes, and I'm trying to get to all of the amazing things that you do, so everyone is aware of you and can connect with you in all of the ways. You also have a show on YouTube. Share the name of the show and what is it all about?
Well, it's called Conversations with Adam, Gell, and Inspiring Minds. And I interview mainly people from the UFO world, people who are interested in UFOs, as we spoke about before.
Do you hear that, Wanderers? They're big fans of that conversation.
Near-death experiences.
Perfect.
Eben Alexander, Raymond Moody, and others. And I'm also very interested in sports myself because I played college baseball. The only thing I find is that there are far and few between athletes who are on this path of self-discovery and willing to shed the complete masculine in order to open themselves up and being maybe judged as having some other experiences that would be enlightening for everyone to hear. So I do have an interview with a former NHL hockey player who was an NHL enforcer, a big tough guy who wound up going up the road of psilocybin. And
I actually watched that one. Yes, it
okay,
was so good.
yeah. So that type of that I'm trying. I have a broad interest of things.
Yeah, you are. You are all over the place, but also it's all encompassing. It's all very connected and intertwined with one
Yeah,
another.
I don't like to shortchange myself of information or any type of information and experience that could teach me about something new that relates to me on some level.
Yeah.
So I'm all of what I have on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. What was your most memorable interview that comes to mind? I'm sure you had several, but what right offhand, what was your most?
I would actually say that I did an interview with a woman who worked at the Defense Intelligence Agency who spoke about her experiences of being followed and her childhood experiences with alien contact. It was just, to me, it was interesting. It was like maybe the most profound one for me. And as well as Eben Alexander, who had his near-death experience, a neurosurgeon. And he explains his work of being a neurosurgeon and having to then explain to his colleagues of what he experienced, and also going up his path.
Very scientific human beings talking about a spiritual experience.
Yes. So I'm looking to interview people who shed light on information that we all question, but never heard anything about. And just expanding people's levels of consciousness and understanding that there is more than meets the eye. And as I said before, just because you shine a flashlight on a dark room on one object doesn't mean that there aren't other objects in the room.
Yeah.
But that's what we do.
Absolutely. I'm looking over your list of shows and the guests you've had. We have some of the same guests. How long have you been doing your show for?
I'd say about 2-3 years now.
Nice. So good. I love that you have the show. I just became aware of it probably about 2 or 3 months ago, and I am addicted to YouTube. So I
Me
have you
too.
in my queue where I'll get a show that comes into my queue every once in a while. I'm like, "Ooh, this is good." You're doing an amazing job out there in the world, and I'm so grateful for you and the time that you've spent with us. It's so good. Before we do say our goodbyes, can you make sure that everyone knows how to reach you?
Sure. You can reach me on my website at adamgelluniversalhealing.com. And basically you can go through my website and maybe relate to something in your life that could use any type of healing or just information that you're interested. I have consultations, free consultations, if a person wants to share something or talk to me about something, and just offer insight into a person's life where I can maybe help them a little bit.
Yeah. So good. And I can tell that is from a very deep, heart-centered space that you desire to help other humans in their experience. And that's just a beautiful place for us to witness and experience through you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
On your site, I'm not seeing your Patreon link. Is that something that you'll be connecting on there? I know you just put it together.
I'll put it on the website together,
Okay,
but
perfect.
I have it separately. Yes, I have to put it on there.
I just want to make sure everyone can get to it. We got to watch your documentary and support your shows.
Yes. So, okay. Well, I'll send you the Patreon page. Maybe that's how I'll do it. I thought I did.
Oh, I have it. No, I have it.
Okay.
I've been sharing it, but
It's not linked yet.
this is a live show, and so we're live on video, and then we have the replays. And so for those who can't just click on it and in replays, I wanted them to be able to gain access to that in a future time. Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much for soul wandering with us tonight. It really has been an amazing experience. I am grateful for the opportunity to have met you and to feel your big, huge energy. My goodness. I am just so grateful. I'm going to be buzzing the rest of the night.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me here. It was wonderful talking to you and sharing this information with you.
Yes, thank you. And
You're
to all of
you're a
you,
great soul as well.
thank you. Every day I try to do better than yesterday. That's all we can do, right?
That's all we can do.
To all of you out there, my wanderers, thank you for listening. Thank you for spending this time and space with all of us. I love and appreciate you all and for being here with me every single week. Until next time, be good to yourself and be good to each other. Good night, everyone.